Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for clicking on my video today. And today's video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to look around to a lot of different things and just show you guys why the stock market could literally crash this week. We're going to get into a bunch of different stuff, but obviously we are going to go into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvda, and AMD, and Meta actually. We're going to look at that as well. And we're just going to show you guys what could happen based off of these signals here that we're seeing, these crash signals, what could happen in those individual stocks. So let's get into it. The first thing I wanted to talk about was inflation and the fact that we are not worried about that apparently going forward. And JP Morgan actually posting this right here on March 13th of this year, February 2024 CPI report, inflation ticks up slightly, but continues to trend in the right direction. And my problem with that overall statement is if we are trending in the right direction, then technically going up would not be the right direction at that point. But if we see that tick up for multiple times in a row, that would be an inclination that, hey, we are not heading in the right direction. Things out there are telling you that inflation is going higher. And one of those things is actually gold. Okay, so I wanted to talk first about the dollar compared to the gold right here. And sometimes they do move in alignment with each other, right? Sometimes they do. But around this area here, we see that when gold started to kind of top out in this area, right? This little double top up here. Once we get to this point, the dollar really started to gain steam in around April 2022 and see that move upward. And we notice what happens to gold. We see that inverse correlation come in at that point. So we do see a point in time where gold actually did fall off with that dramatic selling in the market, with the dollar really pumping higher. And as the dollar looks like it's making another move higher as of right now, you have to be a little bit worried about gold. But what happened around here? Well, gold started to bottom out. And this is overall the inclination. People could be saying, you know, the dollar is going to be worth less. Your money is going to be worth harder to use. It's going to take more dollars to buy more things. That is inflation. And therefore, people will say gold is going to be strong in an environment like that. But if we go through a deflationary event, right? A deflationary event can bring gold back down and make that dollar go up. If we just go back a little bit, let's go to 2020, right? So we see 2020, we actually saw this spiking down right here on this monthly bar. Well, at this time, gold actually was topping out around this area, and then we saw a loss of about 15%, and that was around the COVID crisis. Now, if we zoom back out to what happened to the dollar around that point, well, let's see, March at that point, we see that the dollar actually started to gain steam, okay? So when we do go into even a small recession like 2020, we can see that pain go forward, and you'll see that back in 2008, and this looks even worse as we get into more stuff. So we brought up 2008 for a brief moment, and we all know what happened there, and we noticed that there was a big credit crisis, and around that point, we were sitting at this level, okay? So this was around 2008 that we were sitting at this level with the total outstanding credit card balances, okay? So you'll notice that we are well above that at this point. So the fact that people are out there saying that this is possibly not even a stock market bubble, analysts are not worried. We want to be aware that we are in a credit area here that is worse than 2008 at this point. So you have to be a little bit cautious moving forward. This overall tells you that a lot of credit is out there and that we are in a lot of debt, and that can be a huge problem if we start to see delinquencies tick up. So I wanted to show you guys the delinquencies and how it starts to tick up before those recessions, right? This is a little tick up here. We started to tick up right before we went into that 2008 crisis, and now look at what is happening ever since Q4 of 2022. Well, we've been seeing that slowly tick up. So this right here could be basing out. We could be seeing a recession in the near future, and these delinquency rates are starting to increase. So we could be getting some kind of crisis around the banking system and around commercial real estate. And that would be very, very bad for the market. And why would it be bad for the market? Like I said in this article here, stock market bubble, analysts explain why they're not worried. And I'm just going to tell you that this article is crap. And Nvda and a lot of the stocks that we cover, let's see if we're in some kind of bubble. Well, as we look at Nvda, this is the big dog. And I would say this is some kind of blow off top bubble-like behavior here. And then as we click down the line, we can see AMD looking like some bubble behavior here. We have Meta looking like some bubble behavior here, all built on credit right now. And then even Palo Alto, right? We've seen some downward moves here. A lot of people little bearish on this, but we notice boom, look at that. This thing going up to higher levels. So that would convince me that we are in Microsoft, some kind of bubble here. And as we go over to Google, you're going to see we're crossing above that high right now, really able to buy back up even through this downward action. So we could be getting some double top up here. We'll talk about that moving forward, but you can see that all of these stocks either holding near their all-time highs or breaking through and creating really, really, really big upside new all-time highs. So we have to be cautious in this market. And if you want to go look at the actual SPY, well, look at that. It's going to an all-time high too. The Qs, they're going to an all-time high too. So in a time where the economy is in such a bad place, obviously the stock market's different from the economy, but we can see the economy is going to need some kind of deflationary event, or else something like oil can keep going. So I did want to bring up oil for a second, just show you guys the monthly chart about to curl up. So this would mean that we have to do something, or we're going to start to test these levels, and you're going to see, oil prices go way up. So we could see this actually create a divergence. We could come above 122.56. And so to say that we are not in a bubble, to say we have no inflation to really worry about with the CPI ticking up one time, if it ticks up again and oil keeps going, most likely that will take place. Let's also look over at crypto for a sec. Oh, look at that. We're in a bubble as well. We're hitting above the area where the last bubble kind of popped here. And now we're seeing that one more time. And look at this wick coming in on the monthly for Bitcoin. This is something that should worry you going forward, because Bitcoin could be topping out with a big wick like these over here. And then we could see some downward price action for months to come, as we do have divergences that we're going to talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about the individual stocks at this point, but I just wanted you guys to be aware that the bubble scenario, people are out there, the articles are saying it. If you look at the fundamental side, they're trying to tell you this is not a bubble. That's exactly what they said before the 2000 crash. That's the dot-com bubble, and that's exactly what they said right before the housing crisis in 2008. So do not be fooled by that. You look at the charts and you can tell, and we're going to show you that right now, what these bad signals could be saying. And you really want to pay attention to the dollar, because it's breaking out, and we could be seeing lower prices in stocks, dramatically lower, and it might be pretty quick because we are in a bubble. Okay, so let's go through these individual stocks. And we're noticing that the SPY, what have we been talking about on the SPY? Well, our monthly chart here, the one thing I wanted to mention was we're right at where the month was expected to go at this point. So if we do see that continued strength, we actually could see that resistance come in here, and we can see this actually fail throughout next week. So we have to really pay attention next week. We still trade the shorter time frames, so make sure to subscribe and join us back on Sunday when we go through the shorter time frames, give you those daily and weekly expected moves. And if you need those weekly expected moves or the monthlies for the individual stocks, you can go click on Patreon down in the description. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that this bar right here, we're already up towards the area that SPY has fully priced into the market. Okay, so that just tells me maybe I should look out for some bad signals that could come down the line. And on the monthly scale here, we see that divergence. We're hitting up the upper trend line. We're breaking out above it. What if we wick down and close back within it? And then we see this crossover. So over the next few months are going to be very, very important. If we're able to see 2 months of selling off and then get that to buy back up, that would make a lot of sense too. Maybe we want to push back up. It's an election year. But if this actually crosses and we get that dead cat bounce, this could be crossing down into negative territory. We see that proven on the RSI, on the MACD at the same time. You guys know how powerful these have been. You guys have been benefiting from a lot of the trade setups that are using divergences like this on shorter time frames on Patreon that we're giving out. So join Patreon. I do give trade setups and an extra video just for Patreon on there every single week. But you're just noticing that we do have this monthly divergence up here. And if that confirms, it could mean much lower prices over time. And then we'll have to talk about it maybe around this area if that comes to fruition. Now you're probably going, Lucas, but the Qs haven't hit their upside range for the monthly here, right? This yellow line up here, we haven't hit it yet, but this is why it's important to pay attention to multiple stocks and why you should be watching the video all the way through, because one stock can give you a hint about another, right? We used Meta that 1 week to know that this was an overall trap in the market, right? So we were able to use one stock to really figure out if this was a trap. And we did figure that out, and we made some good money the next day because we were like the only people taking calls the next day. Okay, so we want to pay attention to this, but the reason you should be worried here is the SPY is outside of it, but the Qs are not. If the Qs are seeing that weakness and not able to get to this monthly expected move, the SPY is already there, so it can see that resistance, which means it can weigh down on the Qs. So we want to pay attention to this going on into the rest of the month here. And this is where we're going into the last week. So we really could see something bad happen, especially with the dollar moving how it is, which we're going to show that by itself in a moment. This was Aapl, and this is what we were talking about a long time ago, right? We were talking about these divergences up here possibly confirming, okay? And then we saw that weekly divergence up here. So we were able to get into this short move for quite some time, and we were just saying, hey, if this breaks, it might be a bad sign. So now we could go get that retest. It's still possible for this month, but just be very careful. Be watching those monthly expected moves out there for these individual stocks going into the last week of March here. So pay attention. We do give those monthly ranges out on Patreon, but Aapl not looking good. Able to hold up at the monthly 20 right now, but look at that. It's confirmed. This MACD, they're saying the momentum is dead here. If we get some bad news out there, we can see this thing go down. Fed Jerome Powell is not going to be the one to give you guys that bad news. They are going to swing everything into a positive, it seems, and say CPI going up could be an actually good thing for the market, which is something they actually said. I'm going to tell you right now, CPI ticking up is not a good thing for the market. CPI ticking up 2 times will not be a good thing for the market. That would mean that we're actually not trending in the right direction, and the Fed did not do a good job with its rate raising campaign. Coming up into a point where we could see that support jump in, but really these Bollingers are telling you, you know, if this wants to break down through this low, we could come test this low pretty quick. So I'm looking for a touch of this little trend line down here I have on Aapl. We've based out with that trend line a few times in the past, so I want to pay attention to this level. But if we just get some kind of bounce there, meaning, you know, the monthly actually goes negative, and we get that bounce and then it goes negative again, we could be seeing a negative trend on the monthly scale with some kind of head and shoulders on Aapl. Aapl experiencing weakness while the Qs are up here in La La Land is a very bad sign. It is a very important and big stock that a lot of insiders trade. So you have to be aware when Aapl is not doing something that the overall market is. Tesla, same story, right? This thing, not necessarily divergence up in this level, but seeing that thing fail. And guess what? It's going negative. Tesla is going negative on the monthly scale, and that is very, very bad. That actually says like, hey, we're going to test this low or go make a new one, and your next point of support is most likely down at like 26 on the monthly scale here. So maybe a little higher. Maybe 57 is more an area where we could see that start to base out, but it's just telling you, Tesla is telling you, hey, I'm going to see lower prices, and then we can look for some kind of curling up down in this area for that elongated monthly bounce. But breaking through this structure right here is not a good sign for Tesla. Tesla and Aapl both warning you, hey, the market is sick and we are in a bubble in a different category than Tesla. And that would tell me, okay, most likely that AI bubble is true, because as we go over and we look into Nvda, this thing is just skyrocketing and skyrocketing, and eventually this is going to wick out and it's going to look a lot like Bitcoin, and we're going to see that drop dramatically. I really do believe that, and how that could happen is over a few months we come down to this area, get that bounce, then we actually head to lower levels. I want to be clear, this is not me saying Nvda is a bad stock by any means. I just do not believe that it is going to remain up here and worth this much from an investment standpoint, especially with what's going on in the market today. We can most likely see this start to head down, and now we're even seeing in the as far as the political stuff going on, we're seeing a lot of things that could shake up the market, could cause us to have to cut those rates, which is exactly kind of what the Fed wants. I think they really want a recession at this point, so they don't have to admit that they weren't able to do their job. Right? They want to say, oh, this wasn't my fault. This came out of nowhere. Everything looked good. And that's the real narrative we see in the market today. Amazon's another one that's testing its all-time highs, right? So we have to pay attention to this, and you're noticing what? We could be getting a double top right now. We could get a double top. If that double top played out, we would see Amazon go way lower. So I'm not necessarily leaning to that. I'd probably look at this monthly 200, probably look at this low at this point, but I do believe, you know, we can go to that monthly 200, which sits around $60. So when you look at it that way, you say, hey, do I want to buy these stocks at $177? Or if there's potential in it, would I want to save my money, keep it in cash, watch that dollar go up, and watch these stocks start to crash over time, and then in a couple years accumulate a lot of Amazon stock at $60? That's overall why I'm stating this from an investment standpoint. This looks really bad if we start to confirm. If this confirms and goes negative, and then in the future we could see that monthly divergence down here. But right now, you just have to say, we're very overbought on a lot of things, and the monthly is not looking good across the board. Nvda was brief, but you notice Nvda just skyrocketing, really going parabolic, and something that's not going parabolic is AMD. AMD is starting to really come off, starting to wick out, and it's starting to give the potential for a few months of pain, which could lead to this crossing over. And what is this? This is divergence at the same time on AMD. So this is where you can pay attention to a different stock. We can pay attention to AMD and think to ourselves, what stocks could be making a similar move very, very soon, and that could possibly be Nvda. So Nvda, even though it might still go to 1,000, we've talked about this in the shorter time frames. That's why you have to show up every day for our video and watch it all the way through. We're not always bearish. It's just I'm telling you this is a crash video at this point, and boom, this thing could really start to come down. How that would break down? Well, we could break through this, get that retest, set up that left head and right shoulder on a monthly scale going into possibly negative territory. So I do believe AMD is going to break through this low. I think we're going to at least go to the 200, and you might be able to get AMD for $33 in the next 1 to 5 years. And Meta's one that's really blown off to the top side. Okay, now this thing did start to experience weakness at the top side of its monthly expected move. We gave you that for this month. It is new on Patreon, so we will be giving out the monthly expected move for the next month, because I can't remember it right now, kind of having a brain fart, but we'll give every monthly expected move for each stock that we do cover on this channel. We just added Meta to it. So this week you will get the weekly updated ranges for Meta. That's just everything that the options market has priced in for Meta, and at this point we got it pretty right? This was my little trade I took about a week ago, and I just noticed we were wicking out at the top here towards that monthly expected move, took a short position, and boom, was able to 200% my position, which is very, very good. Now you don't have divergences up here, but you're hitting that point around this trend where we could see those sellers step in. And the thing about this is I was just paying attention to Meta for some downside, because it was one that really broke through its COVID lows from that overall bear market, that crash that really happened in 2021 and 2022. So it came below this level, and we saw that vertical buying right back up, gets into positive territory. Good sign for the stock, but at this point, you have to say Meta might experience some extreme weakness, because last time it cut through that 2020 low. We don't necessarily cover these stocks, but I just wanted to point out, Palo Alto, I know a lot of people are watching this, and I'm just telling you this is in a bubble at this point. We're seeing that head to higher levels very dramatically. We don't have that divergence on the MACD, but you do have it on the RSI. So Palo Alto telling us something a little bit different, not able to get that divergence on the MACD, which just tells me when they're not at the same time, I have to be open to just being a pullback. So if this wanted to pull back to the 50 and then see that buy back up over time, we could see that happen. So that's what Palo Alto is telling me. But since 10 other stocks are telling me, hey, we're crashing down to lower levels, we are not going to see just a correction or a pullback. This is going to, head to much lower levels than even the 2022. Then we have to pay attention to it. So Palo Alto, it could be coming down pretty far. Where do I think it could head to? Well, I think that by the end of it, it might be around this little box right here. This little 86 area would be very important for Palo Alto to hold up. Now, as we switch over to Microsoft, this one here, we've showed you guys this trade. This is going to be a very, very good trade this week. I'm just going to tell you that, so you want to subscribe so you can see that. And we do go live every single morning for a stock market live. So we actually look at this stuff live with you and show you guys some setups in real time. You guys ask questions. You guys are fantastic on there. All I ask is that you like and subscribe, and you come join me for those live videos, okay? Now we're noticing, what do we have here? We have a monthly divergence, and if you paid attention to the live, you already know there's monthly divergence, there's daily divergence, there's 2-hour divergence, there's 30-minute divergence, there's all kinds of things that are telling you the momentum is dead here. Microsoft is a huge hint that we are going to see extreme weakness in the stock market in the next month or so. So be very careful, because that could begin as soon as next week. Google's another one that's showing us a possible double top, right? We do see this double top coming in. We saw this low. Now we're just double topping out right here. So we could see some, we could see some positive move here to come up into this area, but you have to be careful, as we've rejected from this trend line a couple times. So as we come up into that trend line, if that happens and we go up to like a 160-ish area, then I would want to be paying attention to any downside, because sellers can step in right here we have the possible double top divergence that is showing on the MACD down here on the RSI at the same time. So we have to be open to this going negative. If this goes negative, we might get a bounce around this low, but it might be a dead cat and we might actually head lower, testing maybe the COVID lows. So this is where I'm saying from an investment perspective, you could be getting in the next couple of years, in the next few years, Google at $50. That is insane. So you want to be very, very smart with your money. Make sure to be patient with this market. Work really hard to save that money because you may get some very good investments in the future. I know another one that people are looking at is SMCI, and this one we were really talking about because it's wicking out, okay, on the monthly scale. Now, we were giving you the shorter trades here just for fun, and we were paying attention to some resistance, some support, and we were able to break through that support this week, but buy back up. So we are still within this area right here, so we could see some kind of upward move, but will that create a lower high on the monthly scale here? You're just noticing this is a very parabolic move, and as of right now, you have flatness of the MACD down here, or of the RSI down here, but not on the MACD. Now, this is a very parabolic move, very fast, so this can, you see that it only took us 3 months to get here, so we can take 1 month to get all the way down here. Be very, very careful as we do take that stair stepper up and possibly the elevator down. Now, the dollar on the monthly scale, I just wanted to show you guys how this thing is seeing some strength. It's really seeing some strength here, and we could see that break through. So we want to see if this is able to break fully through. We know that on the shorter time frames, the weekly and things, well, shorter time frames, but the weekly here, able to curl up into positive territory at this point, break through this flag here, and now we could see that make a new high. So we could be seeing the dollar break out. Is that going to exceed this high? That's really what we're paying attention to. See if that wants to see a very big move. But as the market goes higher and higher and the dollar is trickling up, you have to say, this is insiders, and they are selling all of their stock to people like you, to people like me. The retail traders are the ones keeping this thing higher at this point. The smart money is moving out of this market very, very rapidly. That makes total sense. I would do that too. Seeing those yields come up even higher, seeing that CPI report, seeing the PPI, this is not a good thing. Now we're seeing those yields start to drop off, so hopefully my TLT trade is going to look pretty good soon. But if this starts to drop dramatically, that could mean we're forced to cut these rates. Something really bad is going to push these yields down, and they're actually going to see some kind of black swan event that pushes them really far down. So we have to pay attention to these yields going forward, but they've been moving up like the dollar, and we haven't necessarily seen any pain in the overall market, which tells you that maybe these are going to be forced to cut for some reason, and that is where a black swan event is actually very, very probable over the next year. And you guys know my feeling about this. A black swan event could happen literally tomorrow. It literally could happen this week. It could happen this week, or it could happen in 2024 is what I'm going to say. But I believe that I'm open to that happening right now because of the signals I'm seeing with the dollar, because I'm seeing oil see that starting to move upward. We're in an area where inflation can come back into this market and something might actually break to cause a deflationary event and give us some kind of recession. Funny, with all of those signals that I just showed you, the VIX actually coming down to lower levels. So we're seeing the fear completely sucked out of this market while the SPY is at that all-time high again. So we have to pay attention to possible volatility coming back into this market. And one thing I wanted to point out on the monthly here is look how tight the Bollinger Band. Something very, very bad is coming very soon. We're seeing these Bollinger Bands just get so tight, and that just tells me volatility can really come back into this market very soon. And that's on the weekly chart. Sorry about that. But the daily here is what I'm noticing. We're seeing that kind of bottoming out at this point, right where we expected it to. We were telling you guys that 13 level is where we really believe that volatility is going to go to. Guess what? It gets there. We see some wicking up. Now we can see, is this going to go back into positive territory? Are we going to see a dramatic move upward in volatility, which could mean, volatility moves two ways, right? So volatility can go up while the market goes up if we see extreme buying, right? If we see some extreme blow off top, we can see volatility still go higher. But I'm not leaning towards that. I think we're hitting an area where stocks are going to have to stop. Sure, I'm open to some kind of pullback or correction in order to head higher by the end of the year. But overall, I'm stating that the signals right now are telling you, have your crash alert warnings set. It was a little bit different of a video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did enjoy it, make sure to hit that like button. But the main takeaway here is we are seeing a lot of complacency in the market. A lot of the fundamental, the news out there is telling you we are not in a bubble. I am here to tell you the truth. We are in a bubble. We are in a bubble, and this thing can really start to skyrocket. Do not think otherwise. All of the signals are telling you from the dollar, from the yields, from how TLT is performing right now. It's really telling you, hey, this thing is going to crash down. Something really, really bad is right around the corner, and it could happen as soon as this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for showing up to my live videos every day. You guys are awesome. We'll have to take roll next one, right? We'll have to take roll for you guys. So I really do appreciate you guys coming by. I just wish that you have a great, great weekend. Try to have some fun this weekend and then come back on Sunday. Make sure you're subscribed so that you can get some info going into Monday, going into this very, very important week as volatility could skyrocket at any moment. So thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a good night. I hope you have all the luck in the world trading, and we'll give you some more luck on Sunday. Peace.